Hi everyone, this is Dr. Nitin Chhoda with another very important alert from Ignition Time. According to a brand new report on Fox News, President Trump is about to sign a pandemic relief package today to help unemployed Americans. And the way they're going to do this is they're going to reallocate $80 billion with a B, which is essentially money from the CARES Act that was allocated but not utilized, and $40 billion from disaster relief money. So basically, the plan is as follows. And again, this was reported by Fox News. I will link you to that article below. The Trump administration believes it has access to $140 billion, which it can reprogram. This includes $80 billion with a B in untapped money from the big CARES Act that was passed back in March. Again, this was money that was allocated but not utilized. And the Trump administration will take $40 billion with a B from the disaster relief fund and then reprogram that towards unemployment benefits and other ways to provide relief to individuals who've been impacted by this pandemic. The White House believes it can divert some of this funding without congressional approval, similar to how the president in 2019 declared a national emergency at the border with Mexico, and he shifted billions of dollars from the Pentagon budget to pay for the border wall. So the president is essentially going to be doing that, and both Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer, as you can understand, as you can imagine, were not happy with this, and they expressed skepticism about this executive power, this executive action being taken by the president. Pelosi said you cannot move that much money, and she said we're talking about a major investment. And what Schumer said was a better way to do this would be to come to an agreement that meets the needs of the American people a much better way. That's where they stand right now. In fact, this is what President Trump said. He said, "We'll see. Yeah, probably we'll get sued." That's what the president said. A senior administration official told Fox News today that the president is taking action to provide relief to unemployed Americans, among other actions to provide relief. Now, we are expecting a formal announcement from the president because the president is scheduled to do a press conference at his Bedminster Golf Club in New Jersey. So I'll bring you news as it's announced from that conference. But it's very clear that the president is looking to reallocate funds towards unemployment benefits extensions because there's been a stalemate between the administration, between the White House lead negotiators on one side, which is Steven Mnuchin and Mark Meadows, and the Democrats on the other side, which is Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer. So the president is taking unilateral action in an effort to try and resolve this situation. Now, the extent of the action, the extent of the benefits, how many people will get the benefits, how long the benefits will continue remains to be seen, but it's clear that the president is taking unilateral actions. Hi everybody, so I just finished watching and analyzing the president's latest press conference, and I'm about to give you a full analysis of everything that was said. There were some pretty interesting and pretty explosive things that came out of this press conference. Now, at the end of this analysis, I know some of my viewers will consider this as presidential overreach, and some of my viewers will think that it is some sort of a political masterstroke. I'm not here to make a judgment. It is up to you to make that decision. I'm going to give you the highlights of what the president said and let you decide for yourself. I'm actually going to jump to the unemployment benefits extension component because I know that that is the most important for most of my viewers and subscribers. And then I'll talk to you about some of the other things that the president also talked about. He actually signed 4 executive orders today. One of those executive orders has to do with extension of unemployment benefits. Now, I've covered this extensively on my YouTube channel. I believe I've been the most comprehensive with this coverage across all of YouTube, across all of the internet actually. And here's what the president said about the extension of unemployment benefits extension. He said, "Congressional Democrats have stonewalled our efforts. I am taking action to provide additional relief." In fact, earlier he said, "I've had it." I believe he said, "We've had it." And he said, "I'm taking action to provide additional relief, $400 a week in expanded benefits." So what he's referring to is enhanced federal unemployment benefits above the state unemployment benefits of $400 a week. And he said states will be asked to cover 25% of the cost using existing funding. He said states can offer extended benefits if they so choose. And basically he is transferring some responsibility, some pressure over to the states. And he said, and then he talked about the Democrats and he said they want all of these additional things that have got nothing to do with the pandemic. By the way, a lot of experts are actually baffled with the idea of unemployment benefits being extended unilaterally. By definition, the administration of unemployment benefit insurance must conform to federal law. there is no federal law on the books regarding an additional sum of federal benefits. So what we are seeing has never been done before in the history of our country, where a president signs an executive order to expand unemployment benefits. Now, the interesting thing is, when the president was specifically asked, what have you talked to state governors? Have you talked to states to see if they'll actually get on board with the unemployment benefits and chipping in the 25%? He said, and I quote, "If they don't, that's going to be their problem. They have the money, it's sitting there. There is much more than what was there." And he was asked, hey, why didn't you make it $600 a week? Because that's what people were depending on. He said, if it was higher, that would be a disincentive to go back to work. And then he talked about the payroll tax as well. I'll be talking about the payroll tax. Now, this is interesting because President Trump has set up essentially a political showdown, if you will, and financially, fiscally also, I believe there are some challenges with what he proposed, and I will talk about the deferment of the payroll tax in a little bit. He actually tied that back to the November election. That's what he did. But politically, this actually creates a situation where if the Democrats oppose the unemployment benefits extension, the $400 week extension, they'll become extremely unpopular because they'll be, President Trump will say they are not helping people. So, and when he was asked, how fast is the money going to be distributed? He said we have significant money that was unspent and it will be used for different purposes. The money will be rapidly distributed. They are going to see it very soon. Now, he did not give a time frame. I want to be clear about that. He said this is going to go rapidly through the courts, and he was asked what happens if you get legal battles over this. He said if we get sued, this was interesting. I thought he said that. He said, if we get sued, it's going to be somebody that doesn't want people to get money. So this again sets up a political showdown where if anyone opposes what the president has done, they will be seen as someone who's not supportive of the people, an enemy of the people, if you will, as per President Trump. And he said Congress has obstructed people from getting desperately needed money. So that was the unemployment benefits extension component of the press conference. I will link you to that press conference below, and I will actually show you actual clips next time, but I wanted to get this information out to you quickly. Now, President Trump did talk about other important things during this press conference, and some of the things he said were surprising, to say the least. He said, with current negotiations, we have tried repeatedly. He said Democrats have refused to negotiate. They want bailout money for poorly run Democratic states for many, many years, and we are not willing to do that. He said, hopefully we can do something with them at a later date. So it seems like the president and the administration have kept the door open with Democrats, but I can't see what the Democrats will do after what the president has done. He has essentially bypassed Congress. So how Nancy Pelosi, how Chuck Schumer will react remains to be seen. He said we are going to sign some bills to pretty much take care of the entire situation. And he said 1/3 of what the Democrats wanted has nothing to do with the pandemic. Now, before I go further into my analysis, I do want you folks to know a lot of the news media, whether you watch, CNN and NBC, MSNBC on one side, or whether you watch Fox News, whether you watch different YouTube channels, doesn't really matter. I want us to have measured expectations about this. I want us to be realistic, and I want us to, quite honestly, not get our hopes up too high, because there are going to be some legal challenges to this. And I know that there's a lot of sensationalism out there, specifically on YouTube, and I just want us to make sure that we keep our expectations measured, because what the president has done is something that has never been done before. Whether that actually results in money getting into the hands of the people, how soon that money gets into the hands of people, has yet to be seen. Whether there's going to be opposition from Democrats, whether there could even be opposition from Republicans to what the president is doing. We'll actually see that in the coming few hours and the coming days, and I'll be sure to cover that for you. My goal is to give you the truth, 100% truth. So please don't be swayed by sensationalism. There were reports a few days earlier, that Mitch McConnell had approved $600 a week, and as you know, and as I had mentioned, that was not necessarily true. And so again, please make sure you have measured expectations, because we are in uncharted territory. As a country, we are in uncharted territory politically, and I'll tell you why I say that, because the president tied the press conference and he tied payroll taxes to the November election, and that just surprised me. We are in uncharted territory financially, because we're in more debt than ever before. So I would say that I've said this before, buckle your seatbelts. I still think we need to buckle our seatbelts, and the ride is still going to get bumpy. So don't celebrate prematurely. because we have yet to see how things go in the coming days and weeks. The president talked about Joe Biden and voter ID. Now, in the 2016 election, President Trump made it sort of took the immigration aspect, if you will, and the border wall. He took what essentially no one was talking about, and he made it into a talking point with his messaging, with all the messages he had on Twitter. Now, what the president is doing is setting up a showdown heading into the November election, a political showdown where he's going to make voter ID and mail-in ballots fraud potentially the big topic going into the 2020 election. President Trump, he even used the phrase stealing elections. I believe he's going to make that the next big topic in our country. The president has also said the Democratic bill includes checks for illegal aliens. Democrats want open borders. He said Democrats want mass release of illegal aliens from detention, mass release of inmates, including serious felons. And he said, what does that have to do with the stimulus and the economy? It has got nothing to do with the pandemic. He also said Democrats are blocking support for K-12 paycheck protection programs, additional money for hospitals, testing and vaccines. He said Democrats are actively blocking things that we want that are good for the people. And he said Democrats are actually blocking direct payments of $3,400 for a family of four. The way you get that is $1,200 for each spouse, and then $500 per dependent. So that, $1,200 plus $1,200 plus $500 plus $500 is $3,400. He said Democrats are blocking funding for childcare, for mental health care. And then he finally said, we've had it. I believe he said, I've had it, but he did say, we've had it. I'm taking executive action. He said, I'm providing a payroll tax holiday to Americans earning less than $100,000. Employers will defer payment of the employee portion. Initially, he said it would be starting September 1st. Then he said it would be August 1st. He said that would be deferred through the end of the year. He said there would be bigger checks for working families. And in what I think was quite surprising, and this is why I use the phrase political showdown, in what was the most remarkable statement I've ever heard from a president. He said, if I am victorious on November 3rd, I will forgive these payroll taxes. If I win, I may extend it beyond the end of the year and terminate the tax. He said may. Now listen, it's important to remember that the payroll taxes pay for Medicare and Social Security, which millions of Americans depend on. So if you take away the payroll tax, how are you going to pay for Medicare and Social Security, especially considering that Medicare faces a shortfall? Social Security is expected to run out of money at some point in the future. So this sets up not only a political showdown, because now, if someone says, no, we're going to keep the payroll taxes, people will say, well, now, my paycheck's going to be smaller, because what he's doing is giving individuals the feeling that they have a bigger paycheck. And so if you're going to think to yourself, gosh, my paycheck, which is now bigger, is going to become smaller with the reinstatement of the payroll tax, I'm going to vote a certain way. So I thought that was just, we've never seen anything like this. This is uncharted territory. He also talked about protection for renters and homeowners. He said renters and homeowners will stay in their homes, and he talked about protecting people from eviction. Now, it's not clear how many renters are covered, how long the moratorium will be extended for. Is there an actual dollar amount for rental assistance to help people with rent? With back pay, with rent for previous rent or that sort, that was not covered. He also said congressional Democrats have stonewalled our efforts. I'm taking action to provide additional relief, the $400 a week in expanded benefits. And he signed 4 executive orders to this effect. One of them was related to the enhanced unemployment benefits. So I've talked to you about how this could face some legal challenges in the courts. He also talked about relief for student loan payments. He said it's not their fault that colleges have closed down. He said and this again was why I use the phrase political showdown. He said that we are looking at additional tax cuts like income tax cuts and capital gains tax cuts, including income tax for middle income and low income people. By the way, these are the individuals who vote. There's a large segment of the voting population that are low income and middle income. In fact, they've been the ones who've been impacted by this pandemic. Individuals working in hotels, hospitality, entertainment, travel. And so he talked about income tax cuts for them. He also spoke about extensively how the stock market was doing and how 401ks are doing. And he initially called it the biggest tailwind, and then he corrected himself and used the word headwind. He said the biggest headwind we have with respect to the stock market is the possibility that his words, the radical left Democrats will win, and if they win, we will have a crash because they are going to raise taxes. That's what the president said. He said your 401ks and your stocks are going to go down like a rock. They want to raise taxes, and they want to do what he called a childish new Green Deal. And so President Trump proceeded to sign all 4 executive orders related to the deferment of the payroll tax obligations, and he said, which we will end up terminating eventually. That's what he said. Related to unemployment benefits extension, the $400 a week, and the renters assistance. And he talked about, states essentially having to do this. And he said that as far as the deferral of the payroll tax is concerned, he was asked, why are you doing this? Because the Democrats didn't want it. The Republicans weren't really behind it. And he said, and I quote, both sides wanted it, people want it, and people need it. And he was asked, are you going to continue to negotiate? He says, yes, we will continue to negotiate. And he said that there is money left behind and we can use this money. And he said they're going to see it very soon. He was asked, are you expecting to face any legal challenges about all of this? He said, this is going to go rapidly through the courts. If we get sued, it's going to be somebody that doesn't want people to get money. So he's setting up a political showdown, a legal complication, a legal conflict, and a financial cliff, if you will, because how do you have money for Medicare and Social Security if the payroll tax is, he talked about eliminating the payroll tax, and that was that. And he says Congress has obstructed people from getting desperately needed money. That was it, everybody. I will give you I'll show you the actual segments of the president's interview in the description below. If you learned something new, please click the like button. My name is Dr. Nitin Chhoda with Ignition Time. If you want to get fair, breaking, balanced news, breaking news, then please subscribe to my channel. I also provide you with education on finance and how you can get to the next level financially. But I'm happy to provide you with this information, and I encourage you to subscribe to my channel, and also please click notifications so you get instant updates from me going forward. If you do want to get instant alerts about breaking news like this directly to your phone, please get your cell phone out, send a text message to 70,000, that's 70000, and just text us the word ignition or text us the word time, because the name of our channel is Ignition Time. So get your cell phone out, text the word ignition or time to 70,000, that's 70000, and you'll be instantly notified of future breaking news alerts, and you can opt out at any time. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you watching. I'll see you in the next video at Ignition Time.